Thank you everyone for your active participation to this open dialogue of today, and it is now time to wrap up the main outcomes of today. It is my pleasure to invite again the three moderators of the three panels to present their considerations. We will include all these conclusions into the Declaration of Barcelona, an official document that we will prepare for with the conclusions of this workshop. Thank you very much.
Okay, there was a cue. So, it's my pleasure to wrap up the first panel of today. In the end, I think it will be a little bit overlapping, so I try not only to wrap up what we said, but I try to really connect it to the points that we, like how we wanted to have these three panels to interlink. So our first panel was basically about the territorial impact of sharing economy in tourism. And we saw the tourists, and we discussed about the tourists and the effects and the benefits that the tourists have. And like we see, in the end, we had this perfect world already, and also we saw from the benefits a cool and new and better experience for the tourists, often cheaper in a way, easy to access now, even though there have been like sharing offers in the past. Now it's really easy, and the new thing is really the easy access via the platforms. We saw that the platforms and the sharing idea really feeds into a general trend of destination experience, so that people, tourists, can really immerse into the destination and find out what it is about, really to dig for the DNA. And we heard it's really about being home away from home. So a lot of benefits for the tourists. We also had for the inhabitants, they share what they basically, like commodities that they don't use or that are underused. We see that it creates income for them. We see that it has the opportunity to create jobs, and it even gives a higher identity with the territory for the inhabitants and a pride about the place where they are living. So this is like the perfect peer-to-peer world. And if the world would be like this, we didn't have to discuss about the destination planning, territorial planning and management. But unfortunately, it's not just this peer-to-peer world, but this peer-to-peer world is embedded in society and is embedded in economy. So there are other players around this, and everything's interlinked. And I think it has been really like the main outcome, I think, of whole of today is really how complex this is and how it really always matters really on the case. Something which is good at the one place might be bad on the other place, so it's really hard, really have to look. And we see there are conflicting fields, so and fields where we don't know the answers yet. So we see there is the issue of definitions. So sometimes we say the same things, but we don't talk about the same things. So this is definitely something we need to tackle. We need to talk about thresholds. So where are really ticking points where something good may become bad? We have really this ambition to have fair rules. But on the other hand, we see there are really very different perspectives on what are fair rules and how can you ensure them. Is it more regulation, less regulation? And so, there's a lot of discussion already going on in our panel, but also in the other ones. And I think the good thing is there were a lot of things we agreed upon in the discussion on the panel. So I think there is a clear need for more and better measurement and like develop metrics that help you understand the sharing economy in tourism and its territorial impact. We have this need for clear definitions, so we really have to talk about what we are talking about. We have to have these fair rules, which should be evidence-based, so we need the definitions and the research to really make evidence-based fair rules. And I think we need really an integrated approach on what's the old and the new of this tourism. So we have to look at the whole system of tourism. And also, like acknowledge that it is really different in different places. So we heard about, I really like the idea also to talk about the rural environments and not only the cities. So really look for the opportunities that are there in other cities and not only look at the cities like Barcelona where we may have the biggest problem. And what I think also was quite clear that it is good to have this discussion on the European level so that we get some guidance from the European Union on how to regulate or not to regulate. But also, like when you then go in detail, I think there's quite a lot of a disagreement on really how to reach this and what really are good ways to tackle this issue and what is really necessary in the end to come to good conclusions and a good tourism development for everybody. And so what I really think what's the main conclusion for me is we need to keep talking and talking with each other like we did today. So I think the biggest, or one of the biggest achievements of today is really that we have everybody from the collaborative economy, from the administration side, from the researcher side, really basically everybody talking with each other, and this I think is the only way to find solutions together, and probably Patrick will tell us in the end what role NECSTouR can play and if there is a plan to keep this process running. So thank you very much.
Right, I'll only be about 20 minutes. Okay, that was a joke. Right, I'll keep this super brief. We talked about fiscal stuff and employment. I'm not going to review all of it. We will get it in the notes. I think a few themes came out. First is simplification rather than deregulation. Felt like the emphasis. So rationalize it. Make it easier to do the right thing. So have a nice, simple online process to do the right thing. So it's not so much get rid of the rules, just make rule following easier. Talked about data, everyone talked about data. We could do with some more. The process of regulatory review, I think, was implicit in much of what we discussed. Get everyone in the room, but have a long-term cycle to it. So what are you trying to accomplish? What does success look like in 20 years' time? You know, not next year necessarily. What's the long-term objective? Get some consensus around that, and if people have got a problem with it, they can leave the room. But you've really got to be quite disciplined about the process. It does include having all the stakeholders in, but keep trying to agree certain key points, like is it the case that it's residents and it's visitors and it's businesses that we're interested in? I think there was also a clear signal that we need to look at the actual effect, so look through platforms to actual activity. So don't get lost in the platform, look at what's actually happening on the ground. Socio-economic effects, are the jobs there, what kinds of jobs? It's back to the evidence. But I think the theme really was, don't treat the problem, if you like, as new innovative industry and sort of old dinosaur industry. It's all one big visitor economy. It requires innovation. It's been innovating all the time. All kinds of innovation goes on throughout industry. This is about making sure we support innovation without compromising the quality of life for people who live in cities, the ability to make a living running businesses here, and the quality of experience for visitors. And I think if those three considerations animate the regulatory review, we'll get some good results. Thank you, NECSTouR, for the opportunity to talk you senseless all afternoon. It's been very interesting for me and Jorge from Ottawa. I look forward to seeing you again somewhere. Thank you.
All right, fresh from the Prince. So actually from the very last panel, I think we addressed a number of key points. Many of them were actually already discussed before, but if I just try to summarize maybe 4 key points that were kind of discussed and debated. First, the thing which is a bit one of the key learning of that whole day, I think, we can all agree with that this subject has never been so talked and debated in an open way. It's been before. There is really a dialogue. You've seen all these people, gentlemen, talking nicely together, raising the problems. They do not agree, but I've heard a lot of keywords like appropriate solution, a bit case by case, balancing, cooperating, dialogue. So it makes a bit a difference if you compare with a few years ago. That's point number one. The dialogue is really on the way. We've been discussing finally about this digital citizenship, so the change of mindset. One of the questions from a city, for example, point of view, does it make sense to build more and more capacity for welcoming more and even more visitors, and where is the limit versus the citizen quality of life and ideas like that. And because also this technology we've been discussing, which has lots of magical components, is also a way for citizens to get empowered by this technology. They can just in a few minutes become a kind of producers of something, offering something, so they are getting empowered, but that causes, of course, lots of different questions that policymakers need probably to address. One of it being, what is a job and what is an income? I think it's a transverse discussions that we've all had, and where's the limit? Is it to be case by case? Is it to be European-wide, whatever? So that was a key question. I think we have some nice examples from Tuscany, from here, Catalonia, about the way to approach the problem in a real holistic way. So having really everybody on board, so people representing the private sector, the citizens, so not trying to have only one single point of view, but mixing that and very concretely through workshops, through systems and evaluation systems, getting the full holistic view to develop, let's say, a sustainable way of taking the main benefits from the sharing economy. Still, there were some still pending points. I think the conversations we had about how far platforms should reveal a bit the data, the information they have, not only for sharing information, but also for concretely helping in regulating. This is something, at least where there is a discussion, and we, again, no doors were closed. We didn't really see some consensus on that, but at least it's still something that is discussed. Maybe probably looking at how to convert some of the good willingness into concrete actions. Sustainability was one of the key points. It's a pity we didn't have time to address more of that, but I guess there we have something really positive, because everybody agreed to say that at the end of the day, it's common sense. This has to be beneficial to not only visitors, but also tourists, visitor economy. So that's this balance to be found, and I guess there is no real debate. The only problem is that how does it work concretely? So you are a consumer, you are travelers, you are planning a trip here to Barcelona. When you book on one of these digital platforms, what type of information I have to possibly make a choice for a kind of offer that may be more beneficial for the community, for the environment, protecting all the aspects of related to the seasonality, related to the going more into rural areas versus the centers. You need to know that typically we've done a survey that is showing that the keyword associated with Airbnb on Twitter, in the message about Twitter, the first is love, but there's another one. So love, it means people are not talking about only about price or rooms, they're talking about love and travel. But there are also lots of discussions about center. Center is one of the keywords mostly associated with Twitter related to Airbnb, meaning that there are still questions and exchanges about is it far away or not from the center. So happy to be a bit outside the city, but am I sure to be able to go to the center? So you see there are some key questions pending about sustainability where indeed there is a kind of consensus that everybody understands it has to benefit everyone, but still concretely on those digital platforms, it's not always easy for consumers to find a way for those who believe it's important. And I guess it's a growing, it's getting growing importance. Again, if I refer to some of the surveys we did in the past, I mean, travelers are also really consumers, and all these debates that we're having now is clearly making noise outside this room, and there are more and more awareness about the pros and maybe sometimes the counterparts of the sharing economy. So people are getting more and more responsible when they travel, and that also is impacting the sharing economy trend. So I guess we covered more or less everything. Thank you for your attention, and I think it's time for a final wrapping up. Thank you.